How's it going?
This meeting is being
Good.
recorded.
Beautiful. Maya, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm doing good today. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for asking. I know you're in the UK, but I don't know specifically where. Where are you based out of?
So I'm in London at the minute, South London. Do you know it?
Yes, actually I do.
Where are
One
you
of
today?
my, what was that?
Where are you today?
So you've probably never heard of this place, but it's a place called Sioux Falls, South Dakota in the US. If you think about like landmarks you maybe have seen, there's like, the Statue of Liberty. One of them is like four faces, so Mount Rushmore.
Okay,
That's where I'm near there.
cool.
So that's me in a
Nice.
nutshell. Yeah, I saw your message on LinkedIn. And I'm always obviously down to help people out. So I guess I kind of wanted to hop on and obviously get to know a little bit about you, a little bit what you're doing, kind of what you're looking for in terms of, raising capital. And then obviously give you any insight that I possibly can.
Great. Thank you. And thanks so much for meeting today. I followed you. I found you through Raising Capital and I kind of saw your posts and like your
Hmm.
philosophy and I thought you'd be really great to talk to as I'm kind of trying to move into this industry now.
Hmm.
And I was interested in raising capital, but also I'm, transitioning into remote sales and just wanting to connect to as many people as possible and hear
Okay.
how what your path was to getting
Hmm.
into this and also joining raising capital and things like that.
Okay. Cool. So I guess how much do you know about me? Let's start there.
So I've seen that I know that you've worked for Raising Capital and
Mhm,
Tana Chidista,
mhm.
and there was another place. I've seen your website,
Okay.
uh, and that's about as much.
Okay. So I'll give you like a super short rundown. So I've been in the high tech space for about 2 years now.
Hmm.
Originally got into it from I invested in Tanner Chittister's training program for like remote sales. Didn't do sales before that, and was
Okay.
placed on an offer. Sold fitness for a little bit. After that, I sold for Jason Capital. That was probably one of the other guys maybe that you had seen. And then after selling for him, took a little bit of time off, then actually was able to get on with Tanner Chittister himself. He's an awesome dude. Got so many good things to say about him. He's super genuine. After I worked with him, then I ended up getting connected with acquisition.com. And then after getting connected with acquisition.com, they connected me with Raising Capital. And then worked there for about 6 months. And then right now I'm actually on a slightly different offer. It is like a stock trading type of thing, and it basically helps people who are wanting to have financial freedom, be able to replace their income, be able to get into and understand how to do stock trading. So obviously be able to not have to work a 9 to 5 or what have you. So that's like a super short rundown of me and my experience. I guess what questions might you have about, well, actually, let me ask you this. What are you currently doing right now in terms of like work? And what I guess interests you in like getting into the remote high ticket space?
So at the minute, basically, I work for an organization that's in the kind of wellness space. So
Hmm.
some form of coaching, but it's not specifically that. And I'm the person who does everything in the company. So I'm doing like several different jobs.
Hmm.
And I wanted to get into remote sales when I heard about it because I think I wanted more of like all the kind of hard work to pay that I do to pay off and
Hmm.
also kind of just polish up my experience and my skills and move it into an area where I can continue to be remote but also have like the challenge
Hmm.
and like the closing the deals and sales. I think I've been interested in sales for a long time, so everything kind of lines up
Hmm.
for sales basically.
Okay. Okay. So then I guess in terms of like right now, I know you mentioned you're doing quite a bit of different stuff. I guess what technically do you do? Like like on a day-to-day basis?
So I do kind of a mixture of sort of sales and digital marketing, kind of brand strategy and marketing
Hmm.
strategies, PR. It's all a mixture of these things, website stuff, etc.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. And so then in terms of like ultimately you're wanting to kind of transition into this space, you want to almost get paid for the hard work that you do. Um, I guess what are you ultimately like outside of just sales? Because obviously you're interested in it. Like what's on the
Hmm.
other side of actually getting into this space? Because I mean, obviously I imagine there's money involved, you're remote, that sort of stuff. But like what are you kind of seeking ultimately?
I think I want to, through this as well, like develop my business skills. And I
Okay.
feel like if I have the business skills and I have the kind of freedom and the financial freedom, then I have more space to kind of create value and maybe create my own
Okay.
thing with that.
Okay, so you're thinking like a couple years down the line, potentially having your own business?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Well, that's exactly my mentality. So, uh, this would definitely be a good fit for that because you'll get a
Okay.
lot of experience talking with business owners, kind of understanding the different levels of business owners, like what separates them from each other, character traits, skills, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in terms of raising capital specifically, are you like married to wanting to go there, or are you just more so in general wanting to like have, make a transition into this space?
I'm not married to the idea. I'm kind of exploring options. I really like the look of the company,
Hmm.
and it looks like a good fit for me. I'm obviously open, but
Hmm.
I'm quite interested in learning more about raising capital in general and this kind of industry.
Okay. Do you have any like I call it hand-to-hand combat type sales? Like, have you had any sales experience, like, having closed a deal before, or would this be like a new thing you have to develop?
No, I have experience. So in my current job, that's a lot of what I do, and it's always business to customer that I have
Hmm.
experience with. So I've been doing that, and I used to work in like retail and everything, and
Hmm.
now I do it online. So it's not completely blank slate, no experience. But the point of doing this is so I can, really be getting better and kind of focusing on that.
Okay. Okay. So then I guess so I can give you my experience obviously at raising capital if you wish. I can also give you some insight from like the space I've seen in general. Big disclaimer, obviously I'm not like God's gift to like remote closing and high ticket sales. So obviously this is my perspective, my opinions, that sort of stuff. So, do your own research, do your own due diligence, etc. Um,
Hmm.
but I do feel like I've been around enough to kind of understand some of the trends. Um, I guess would you want to know about be it raising capital specifically or the high ticket space based on my observations? Like what are you curious about? What would you like to know just to make sure I can help?
I think so. I mean, firstly, with raising capital, I'd be interested to know kind of what's maybe the best things you've learned from working on that job, and if you're seeing any trends in the kind of in that space, in the business coaching space in general as well.
Okay. So what I would say in terms of raising capital is a little bit unique in the sense that like I don't want to go into like a massive like side tangent, but basically the coaching space is very closely tied to like internet marketing and the internet marketing space, which is
Hmm.
usually the most like cutting edge in terms of marketing. And raising capital is using a lot of the insights from there, but it's like a decade or two behind. So stuff that's not working now or that worked 5 years ago is working perfectly fine in specifically the real estate space, the way they have it set up.
Okay.
So so that's one thing I need to say. This is like a slower moving vehicle, which is why it's a great opportunity for Hunter and obviously for everybody at working there at raising capital. Because
Hmm.
what isn't working here, but is proven to work in the past, actually is still relevant and is valuable. Um, Now, what I would say in terms of this, at the moment, because of the way US interest rates are, the idea or the topic of raising capital for doing deals is still attractive, and there's a lot of payout, but it is a little bit more challenging now. Hunter obviously comes at it from the perspective of like, well, that means you're doing less work because each deal you close means you actually make more money, but it does take more work. This isn't like 5 years ago when, because obviously in the US it's an election sort of thing that's going on right now, going
Mm-hmm.
back and forth. Um, and that affects like the way people spend money and how risky people are with their money. And so that as a result is going to affect this specific business because it's like there's the business, but then underneath it is all the economic trends. And
Yeah.
so what I've noticed for raising capital is it's still great, it still works, it still is totally valid, but there are some things that I'm not going to say are against it, but it's not as easy as it was like 5 years ago. Now, there's a very good chance that after, whoever gets elected next, it just goes back because everybody's happy again and they're like, okay, the election's over, and then it picks back up.
Okay.
That's what I would say in terms of generally speaking with the business. In terms of my experience there, it's definitely a different style of selling compared to what I'm used to. It was very challenging, in fact, for me personally. A lot of adjustments, a lot of different ways of approaching, but I won't say it was bad. It like emphasized a different area of sales that I was unfamiliar with. So it's like you're starting from ground zero. When up to this point, I was like, okay, I kind of understand what I'm doing. And then I'm like, shoot, back to square one, which isn't a bad thing. I've developed quite a bit from that.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with like how a typical coaching company does their sales process, like a typical B2C? Are you familiar with how that works at all? Or is that like totally foreign to you?
I think it's quite new to
Okay.
me.
Okay. So I won't go into it then, but basically the way that I'm used to selling is the typical way that most people in like the business coaching space sell. And raising capital did it in a completely different process, which meant that the skills I developed was not 100% applicable. So I had to essentially change the way I was doing things to try to make it work. So for me, it was personally challenging because part of it's unlearning some of the things I did over here, relearning it over there. Again, company's amazing. The people are spectacular. Like one of the best companies I've ever worked for. Hunter's amazing. Met him in person. Jim Morales, he's awesome. Caden, he's awesome as well. Sean, he did a lot for me personally speaking outside of sales. Cam, I don't think he's specifically there anymore, but he's an awesome dude. Adam, he's an awesome dude. Like everybody there is absolutely like peak humanity. Like they give a crap about you. The culture is amazing. Like all
Mm.
that's great. The reason why I left is because I actually went to talk to my mentor over in Dublin, mid-April-ish, and he felt like because the way I was used to selling isn't 100% applicable, I'm leaving a lot on the table by being within a company that doesn't use what I've already developed. So that's why I decided to leave. Um, Obviously, there's some other stuff about when my time there, but that's essentially why they're still going, and I'm not specifically with them.
Okay.
But so that's kind of how that works. Any questions on that in terms of raising capital? Anything you'd like to know more about in terms of the company, in terms of my experience about that?
No, I think that's pretty insightful. Like I think I'm basically just wanting. I think I like that you kind of said the company is kind of a good feeling working with the people there, and it's
Mhm.
interesting to know that they're doing this different kind of sales routine. And but that's what put you off working there, basically, because it's a different
At the end of
process.
the day, because the lessons, because at this point I've probably had over $100,000 worth of like sales coaching and training. I've personally invested,
Yeah.
30, 40K at this point. But all that's based around this stuff. So
Okay. Yeah.
then trying to like apply it, I mean, sales is sales, but it was like my natural inclination of doing things. I felt like with the way the company was set up was not like a really good match for it. So
Mm-hmm.
I struggled with it. And then obviously my sales manager, who he's an awesome dude, was trying to help me. And he's like, pretty simple, just do X. I'm like, but that doesn't make sense based on everything I've done thus
Yeah, yeah,
far.
yeah.
So there was a little bit of conflict in that capacity, but I've got no beef with them whatsoever. In fact, I've done stuff for them since, like helping them with different things that, because they're just genuinely good people. Um, so again, no beef with them whatsoever. Unless you have any other questions about this, I'm more than happy to maybe walk you through my understanding of like the coaching space in general. Or, I mean, I booked this time out to try to help you. So, I mean, I'm just trying to like, whatever you feel you want to know, need to know. Um, I guess, yeah, that whatever you feel.
Yeah, I think yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear about your experience and knowledge with the coaching space. That would be really amazing.
Okay. So basically, if you're someone who is absolute killer already in sales, this is a good place. Because obviously the harder you work, the more you do get paid. Now, there are things that I would say do need to be like refined specifically for the coaching space. Now I didn't have any like sales training before I got in the space, so I had to like invest into a program to actually get the skills to then be able to use it because like
Hmm.
nobody in my family's in sales. Most of the people around me are not in sales. Like this was like a totally new thing. Yeah, I did some retail stuff, but it wasn't like the same thing in terms
Yeah.
of like, hey, I'm talking one on one with this person. They give me an objection, and then how do I overcome that? Like there was nothing like that whatsoever. So I invested with Tanner, got a really good, went through a really good, robust process, and was placed on obviously my first offer. Now, in terms of you as like a person stepping into the space, most of the time you're going to be like a contractor, meaning like you get paid and you're going to have to do your own taxes. You're going to have to, you don't get like health benefits, like you don't get any of those things. So that's part of it. And then the other side of it is skill dependent to a large degree. And if you don't have the skills, it's going to, it'll be a challenge for a while. Me personally, I would say that a lot of people step into this and like they just easily adjust to it. I would say I wasn't one of those people. And so for me, I had to do a lot more effort, a lot more training, drilling, practicing to get some of the results I'd see other people, you know, nothing against them, but like it's almost like they stepped into it and then it's like it just kind of worked. For
Mm.
me, it's like a lot more like intentionality, a lot more effort on that piece. So that's just like a me thing. Obviously, I don't know a huge amount about your background, but that's something I would say. So there, depending on who, your previous experience, life experience, you could step into this and absolutely crush it. I know Michelle, she came in and like literally on her first offer, she was making 10, 15K a month on a fitness offer. That wasn't me. So part of that's, I could go down a whole rabbit hole about that, but you can step in and obviously make a good amount of money if the skills are there and what have you. Um, a couple of things that I would say that you need to be careful about, because with business owners, they obviously are wanting high level people who are able to perform. And I have a couple of videos on my YouTube. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but I do walk through like some of the mentalities of business owners that if you're a rep, you're wanting to emulate. Um,
Hmm.
but ideally, they want someone that can do what they say they do in terms of like the skill set, and then they don't really have to be managed and they go above and beyond. They're basically, they do more than what they're paid for beyond just the commissions piece.
Yeah.
Now for you as a rep, some of the things you have to think about is you can only close people if you have meetings, like appointments with people. If the business owner says they can fill your calendar and then you realize that, well, actually they can't fill my calendar, now you've burned like 2 weeks worth of time getting up to speed, trying to train on the offer and learning about these things. And that's 2 weeks of you not making money.
Yeah.
Unless you have some of the other skill sets, like because there's closing and then there's like actually setting for yourself, which is booking appointments for you. If you can set and close, it's easier for you because then you can almost make up for it with your effort.
Hmm.
But that's just something you should be aware of, because if you jump on an offer where the process isn't dialed in, you don't have the skill set and you don't know how to set, you're essentially just going to be sitting on your hands waiting for the business owner to do stuff. And that's the boat that I was in on a couple of offers that I was on.
Okay.
Nothing against them as business owners specifically, but I'm just telling you, like, if you're stepping in, those are things you kind of have to think about. And then because the business owner is looking for a rep, they're going to want to put on their best, face. Obviously, you as a rep are wanting to put on your best face. And if you're going to be looking at a company you want to work for, you want to kind of understand what the numbers are, because numbers don't lie. And if they're unwilling to share the numbers with you, then that's a red flag. Because if, like, any good sales manager or any good like business owner, depending on what level of person you're talking to, should be able to tell you what they did this month in revenue or the month before in revenue. Like, they should kind of understand who the best person is on the team, how much money they're making, and then
Mm-hmm.
what the average person's making on the team, and then how many people are on the team. Like, they should kind of understand those. If they don't actually know the numbers, and depending on how good you are on an actual interview, you could actually ask them to show like what the numbers are specifically, like share their screen.
Yeah.
If that's not the case, or they're like, well, that doesn't really matter, like it comes down to your skill set, and they're trying to like put it back on you, that is kind of a red flag in terms of
Mm-hmm.
like an offer. Because numbers don't lie. And if the numbers are not what you specifically need to actually like make a living the way you want, that's where you can end up in a spot where it's like you a month off of an offer, and like, you got on an offer, didn't make any money, now you got on a second offer, and then you didn't make any money on that, so now you're like a month without making any money. And I'm not trying to like make this all doom and gloom, because this is not all doom and gloom, but I'm just saying that there are potential obstacles that you're going to have to think about and overcome ahead of time. And
Okay.
a way to mitigate that, meaning mitigate being on bad offers, mitigate people that promise the world, is by having a solid network of people that are already in the space and that already are good and know who is who and what is what. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's different people you can obviously be around and chat with. I haven't been inside of his specific mastermind, but I know that JD Daly, I think his name is, um, Undeniable Closer is like the name of his stuff, which it primarily focuses on like how to land offers or how to actually put yourself in the best position to get on an offer. That's what he primarily focuses on. He is really good about that. And Michelle, the lady I mentioned before, who kind of just stepped in and was making 10, 15, she speaks very highly of him. And I respect her a bunch because she did a bunch of one-on-ones with me way back in the day, and I appreciate her for that. So that's obviously JD. Another person is obviously Bill Walsh. I don't know if you're familiar with him. I look up
Mm-hmm.
to him currently inside of his program. He's amazing. He is the person I ended up going to see in Dublin back in April. And he's the one that gave the recommendation of needing to step out of raising capital and then go do something different. So I highly recommend his stuff from like a skill set perspective, but also from a mentality perspective. Now, one of the things you will notice, because I brought up JD and I brought up Bill Walsh, there are like, I won't say feuds, but people have different perspectives on like what is the most important. Some people believe that the offer is the most important thing, which the offer is 100% important, but some people think it is the most important thing. Other people say your skill set is the most important thing, which your skill is 100% important, but some people say it's the most important thing. Other people say that, well, actually, it's your network that's the most important thing, because you have the network, then you can get on better offers, or you can find the right people with the skill set. So it's like this little, like, if you think about a little triad of like, and each person like emphasizes one over the other. So JD has beef with Bill. Bill kind of has JD with beef a little bit.
Okay.
Which, so I'm just laying it out the way it is. I personally don't give a crap in terms of like who fights with who, because I just want to win. And if I can learn something from someone and someone else, doesn't matter to me. I think all of it's important. But right now I'm with Bill. I highly respect him. He's done a lot for me personally. So that's kind of like my thought process on someone who's stepping in. If you're wanting to actually like cold turkey land an offer, I made a video on my channel. It's called How I Land an Offer, My Process, or like how to
Mm-hmm.
land a high offer, my process, I think it is. That is, it's basically everything I have distilled down into what I use to land offers and what I use to get this offer I'm currently on, which is, I think it's $1 million a month like offer, meaning in terms of revenue. So you can watch that if you want. What else?
I was like, what if you were me, kind of what would you recommend for me to do kind of right now in my situation?
Well, number one, if you're truly like dead set on wanting to be able to, get into the high ticket space and eventually become your own business owner, being a closer or being a setter or whatever you start out as is an amazing place to actually begin at. What I
Mm-hmm.
would say is depending on your situation, in terms of like where you are at financially. I don't know what that specifically looks like, but you have to be willing to accept that there could potentially be a time where you're not making a huge amount of money while you're
Mm-hmm.
developing and while you're getting your skill set, while you're building your reputation. A lot of people do go through that. I'd say how to shortcut that, it would be by investing in some sort of a high level program with somebody. Now, I have my favorites, and I've been around different people that have their favorites. But that's what in terms of like expectations, expect that you'll suck at first. And it's going to take you time, effort, and energy to get good. And the best way to get good, in my opinion, is to invest in someone who's already been there and has the results that you're looking for. Um, so that's what I would say if you're dead set on obviously doing this. Because there will probably be a time period where things are not necessarily going your way or things aren't in a good spot for you. And so you have to be prepared to take that hit or weather that storm until you can get to the other side of it.
Yeah.
Because yes, can you walk in and then jump on your first offer, have it be like fully vetted out and like be in a good spot? Absolutely. You can absolutely do that. But with the way things are today, it's not like it was like 4 years ago, where you could, like, it was so new, people didn't know that this world kind of existed, and you could step in, not be that great, and then still do like amazing. Things have kind of adjusted, and almost like the skill level needed has gone from like this to like this.
Mm.
And most people could step in the space at this level and do okay, make good money. But then once they told their friends and they told their friends and they told their friends, then it's like, okay, well, now there's more people and there's not the same amount of positions, which means
Yeah.
that the business owners can be pickier and can pick the best people, which means if you're not the best, skill set wise or reputation wise, you don't have some sort of other thing that can improve you to get you in the position you're wanting, then you have to make up for that somehow, which that will take time to actually do.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that I'm setting realistic expectations. But that being said, this is from my personal experience. I do know other people that literally, like one guy who did the exact same training program as me with Tanner. He jumped on an offer and I talked with him yesterday. He, on average, so the past 10 months, total, he's pulled in like 100K in comps. So over the past 10 months. So you can absolutely make a crap ton of money on your first one because that's his only offer he's ever done. You
Wow.
can absolutely do that. And so there is a lot of upside. There's also a lot of potential downside. And
Mm-hmm.
because there is a lot of uncertainty stepping into this space, because there's a lot that you think you know that you realize that you don't know. And then it's like, well, shoot, like, how do I navigate this stuff? I come at it from the perspective of like, how can I mitigate my downside as much as possible? So just to give you context, when I stepped into this space, I like got rid of all my expenses. I think maybe my expenses are like, $1,500 a month max. just so that way I knew, okay, I don't have to make a huge amount of money. Like I don't have to make $5,000 a month or I'm dead. So that's like how I approached it, is to try to really mitigate that. And depending on your situation, you might be able to maybe not get down to what I'm doing, but have some sort of a cushion or a safety thing in place to make sure you're still in a good spot.
Yeah.
Because again, this is my perspective. And I would say that most of the offers I've been on have been decent, but they haven't been like astounding in the sense of like, okay, I jumped in day one and then just ran with it and it was amazing. But part of that's my fault because I didn't know what to look for. Like, I didn't know questions to ask on the interview before I hopped on to suss out if this was a bad offer.
Yeah.
And that's where like the network comes into play. Like having other people that are credible, that understand the offer and are like, yeah, this is actually a good one you should be on. And I was like, okay, cool. So that's what I would say, is that if you're wanting to take the leap, you absolutely can. It is, for me, from like a personal perspective, it's one of the best things I've done. Because like my level of confidence is just like my day to day is like so much bigger, so much better. And like I know now that outside of this space, like if you can make it in this space, you can make it anywhere. It's not even a question, because of just how good you have to be and how developed you have to be. So then if you were to become a business owner, it's like night and day. Like, in fact, quite a few people I know, after they got closing for it, they're like, okay, I kind of understand this and I understand the business. They went and they like literally just started their own business. Now, there's additional challenges that go with that, but from a purely, if you're really good at closing or being in high ticket sales and you know kind of how to set for yourself on that sort of stuff, it really sets you up for success, because you can make more mistakes as a business owner if you're good at sales, specifically in the high ticket space. And so you don't have to be nearly as good at marketing or at other stuff like that. And if you are great at that, and then you are great at fulfillment and you're good at sales, everything else just goes faster. So yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. I realize we've gone over the 20 minutes.
I know.
Sorry. But that's been honestly like so informative. Thank you so much for everything you've shared. And yeah, I've a lot more to think about now. So
right. Awesome. Well, I mean, obviously, you know, if this is something you're wanting to move into, I mean, I'm sure you can friend me on Facebook or what have you. And obviously, I'm more than happy to give you any additional insight. The thing would be like, okay, because this isn't like a light thing. People are like, oh, I'll give this a try. Like, if you want it, you're really going to have to like commit to it.
Yeah.
And so I would do some soul searching on your end to see, okay, if this is truly the route I want to go, great. You can go all in on it and you could do amazing at it. But then if you're not someone who goes all in on it, you know, you're just selling yourself short at that point.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely all in with this for sure.
Okay. Well, I mean, if you have any additional questions or anything like that, you can obviously feel free to reach out to me. I'm more responsive on Facebook. So you can send me like a friend request and I'll accept it. And then, you know, if there's anything else you need, obviously feel free to reach out if I have the time, because I'm going to be fairly busy starting like July 1st. So like Monday. But if I can, I'll obviously give you any insight that I can.
Thank you so much. I also see you've recorded the meeting. Do you think you could send me a copy of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I could do that.
Great. Thank you so much.
All right. Beautiful, Maya. You have a wonderful rest of your day. You as well.